Hey everybody, how's it going? And welcome to another MAMJ Let's Play of 9 Hours, 9 Persons, 9 Doors. I still don't know if that's the right order for the game. I always forget. I'm always like 999. But anyways, when we left off, we doubled back and we ran into Ace again, who had actually woken up in the hospital room. And then Ace, Clover, and Seven went through door number 3, while the rest of us explored some other areas of the ship that we had acquired keys to. But now it looks like they had actually found Snake's body. So Seven is telling us to work our way backwards so that we don't have to go through the numbered door, so that we could see Snake's body for ourselves. I don't know how good it's gonna be. It's not locked, so you can go in that way. Where is he? The shower room on the left side of the hallway. I put a broom in there too to keep the door open. We can get in without going through the numbered door, right? Yeah, that's right. Some of this might be repeating itself. I don't remember exactly when I saved. Their new destination clear, Junpei and his companions headed for the door with no number. Once in the hallway, it was easy to spot the metal door on the left wall. It hadn't been open when they'd been through there before. But now, just as Seven had said, there was a broom stuck between the door and the frame, keeping it open. They looked at it for a moment, then stepped inside. It smells horrible. Lotus wrinkled her nose and covered her mouth in disgust. Even Santa pinched his nose shut. Yeah, this is pretty awful. I feel like I'm gonna puke. It was just as bad as they said, perhaps worse. A hideous smell filled the air, so thick they could almost taste it. It was sour and smelled of fish, feces, and burnt meat. It worked its way through Junpei's nose and down through his throat, to pound against the entrance to his stomach. He put his hands over his mouth and struggled to keep what little was in his stomach where it belonged. They didn't have to wonder where the body was. There was blood everywhere. A few arms of the splatter reaching toward them. I don't know what they mean. I'll have to mean a few arms length of the splatter reaching toward them as they walked in through the door. All one had to do was follow the many radial arms to their source. The body itself was hidden behind a divider, unless they mean his actual arms flew off. June, you should stay here. But, please, just do me a favor, okay? Alright? He didn't give her a chance to say no. He put his hands on her shoulder as if to shove her into the ground like a tent pole, turned and walked toward the end of the divider. It felt like it took an eternity for him to get there. Santa and Lotus followed, timid and nervous as a pair of children. Eventually, they reached the divider. They looked at one another and nodded, slowly. Junpei put his hands on the divider and peered around the corner. For a moment, he forgot to breathe. He felt his heart collapse in his chest, like an empty cigarette carton, and time froze. He knew in an instant that he would take the image before him to the grave. What was left of the body sat in a sea of blood. Chunks of flesh torn from the body sat in the blood like tiny islands in the great Red Sea. A vast, ragged hole had been torn in the torso, and what remained of his intestines spilled out of it like fresh spaghetti. Smaller chunks of meat had splattered against the wall and become stuck there as they dried. Globules of yellow fat had left trails like tiny slugs as gravity pulled them down the wall, even as they dried to it. Just like Ace said. Santa's voice was strained. Junpei suspected he was holding down some vomit of his own. Just like the ninth man. The detonator's bracelet set off the bomb in his gut. It looked as though the explosion had been quite powerful. His legs were both bent in an odd, unnatural way, and his left arm had split open, exposing the painfully white bone of his ulna? I don't know bones. His bracelet lay next to him. It seemed to have hit the wall hard enough to have shattered the display, which lay on the ground in pieces. Half of his head was simply collapsed. The blood coating it almost made it look like a raw pizza dough covered in tomato sauce. Anybody hungry? His clothes too were covered in blood. The burgundy tie, the white shirt, the jacket with the yellow piping, and the gray slacks. They were all familiar to Junpei. No mistake about that. It's Snake. Lotus's voice was unnaturally deep and strained, and Junpei heard it catch in her throat. As much as I love that like creepy song, it doesn't seem to play very well right now. So I'm sorry if it sounds weird on the playthrough itself, but yeah, I remember that song being super creepy, but it doesn't sound as frayed as before. Or maybe it's just been a while since I played a DS game and the DS couldn't handle it. The squeal of the tortured metal made Junpei's teeth curl. It sounded like the noise a ghost would make. No matter how many times he heard it, he never got used to it. Every time it put him on edge. It didn't help that there was a girl nearby who looked far more like a ghost than a living human should. It was Clover. She sat on the edge of the bed, her head drooping listlessly into her chest. Her eyes were blank, and she stared across the room at nothing. Her breathing was slow and mechanical. Aside from the rise and fall of her chest, she didn't move. Junpei felt as if even a nudge might cause her to shatter into 1,000 pieces. Snake was probably murdered. Oh, yeah, that was 7. Chances are he was killed the same way the 9th man was. 7 lowered his voice, likely in an effort to keep Clover from hearing what he had to say. There were 4 of the people in the room with Junpei and 7. Ace, Santa, June, and Lotus. 7 looked at each one of them in turn and continued. It's pretty straightforward. Not that hard to figure out how they did it. First, the killers got Snake to authenticate on the red to open door 3. Then they shoved him into it alone, and waited 9 seconds for the door to shut. Once that door shut, it was over for Snake, but he didn't give up. He probably knew it wouldn't do him any good, but he probably ran into the shower room looking for the dead. It was a small chance, but it wasn't like he had anything to lose. Unfortunately, it didn't work. The detonator only deactivated if everybody who authenticated when they went in uses the dead. Then, 81 seconds after he was shoved in, that happened. I see. So that's what you meant by the killers, huh? You need at least 3 people to open one of the numbered doors, including Snake. It wouldn't open for Snake in a single killer. Exactly. That means we're looking at multiple perps here. Junpei crossed his arms and grunted. Well, just in case, I want to make sure. Let's say you're right. When do you think Snake was killed? When we all split up to look for the parts of the Reds, I think. Right after that was when we noticed he was gone. That means none of us have alibis. We were all searching the rooms we'd been assigned, looking for those parts. Yeah. That means anybody could be a killer. Wait a minute. What are you talking about? June seemed shocked. How can you say one of us is a killer so casually? Well, not just one of us. If I'm right, then at least 2 of us are murderers. Why don't you calm down a bit, 7? What are you going to gain by being so suspicious? That's what Zero wants, you know? What? Zero wants? Exactly. This game was set up by Zero, wasn't it? Any game has a winner and a loser. Whoever makes it through door 9 is a winner, and those who don't are losers. Zero is trying to make us fight against one another for that victory. Then you're saying that Zero is trying to split us up by making us fight each other? Yes. That is why we can't let ourselves fall prey to suspicion. We have to trust one another and form a strong bond of friendship. Otherwise, we'll end up ensnared by Zero's manipulations. Then, does that mean that the person who killed Snake? Yes, almost certainly Zero himself. If there's anyone who we should doubt, it should be Zero. He masterminded this game and kidnapped all of us. Doesn't it seem reasonable that he would have killed Snake as well? Junpei hadn't really considered that. If Zero had killed Snake, then Zero was on the ship with them. Was Zero still on the ship with them? I don't know. Because, like, Zero could be one of us, but Zero could also be in a far distant area just watching everybody do their thing. Because everything's been pre-recorded, right? I'm gonna say I'm not sure. He wasn't sure. Hey, I'm just wondering about one thing. And what's that? How can you be so sure that Zero's on the ship? Ace's eyebrows shot up. Really, Junpei? I confess, I'm a little disappointed. Usually you're rather sharp. Sorry I'm so dull then. Isn't it obvious? Obvious? How so? This ship. Huh? Zero said this ship several times when he addressed us. I am Zero, the captain of this ship. The purpose of the game is simple, leave this ship alive. As you have no doubt surmised, this ship has begun to sink. If he weren't here, he wouldn't say this ship, would he? He'd be saying something like that ship, or the ship. Oh. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Ace's explanation made perfect sense. Junpei felt a little foolish that he hadn't seen it himself. Still, he was left with the question, and it was not one of no small importance. If Zero's on the ship, where is he? Suddenly, everyone went very quiet. The silence was cold and clammy, and Junpei could feel it crawling across his back and around his throat. Again, he heard the ghosting moaning noise. And moments later, a person who looked more ghost than human appeared. It was Clover. She looked at the floor as she spoke, and her voice was cold and monotone. I think Zero is one of us. Every human body in the room froze. The only sound was a muffled rustling of breath. Ice darted from face to face. One of the faces was the face of their jailer. But who? Junpei said, It is possible. It is very possible. Well, that's possible. Huh? Like Clover said, Zero might be one of us. What are you saying, Jumpy? Didn't you hear what Ace said? Exactly. I said we shouldn't suspect one another for any reason. No reason. I've got a great reason. And what's that? The bracelets. He held out his left arm. Why aren't the bombs in our bodies connected to the bracelets? You're all thinking Zero's hiding somewhere, watching us, right? If he's doing that, then he could just detonate the bombs by remote control if someone did something they weren't supposed to. It would be a lot more precise and a lot easier. But, if that's the case, then why is the bomb set off by the detonator in the bracelet? Huh, you got a point. I'm not done. Try applying the same ideas to the nonary game. All of the puzzles here are run by themselves. In other words, Zero doesn't have to be controlling them for the game to move forward. Why is that? Why would Zero bother to do something like that? Junpei let the question hang in the air and looked at the others. It was Santa who answered. So let's say you and Clover are right. Zero's one of us. If that's the case, then it'd be really hard for him to keep track of all of us or control anything remotely. That's why all the puzzles run by themselves. That's what you're getting at, right? Yeah. Junpei nodded. 7. When we were talking earlier, you said any one of us could be Snake's killer, right? Yeah, something like that. Alright then, I've got a question for you, Ace. You said something like Zero must be the one who killed Snake, right? Yes, something like that. I can't think of any other explanation. So what do we get if we combine those? They fit together pretty well, I think. Something like this. Whoever killed Snake is Zero and is also one of us. 7 and Ace's theory aren't mutually exclusive. They actually complement each other pretty well. At least, they do if Zero is one of us. No one spoke. Their faces were grim, but Junpei wasn't sure if they believed them or not. Finally, Lotus spoke up. What were his motives? His motives? Yes. Isn't that pretty important? Why would Zero want to hide as one of us? Oh. Well, that's because, Junpei choked. He hadn't thought of that, and he had to be honest with himself. He had no idea. I don't know. Lotus sighed. Well, so much for making a persuasive argument, Junpei. In other words, you only had circumstantial evidence. I don't really think there's enough to go on, you know? Junpei was painfully aware of their eyes on him and their disapproval. He tried to find something else, anything else to look at. Just when he felt he could bear it no longer, they heard a bell begin to ring. It was the clock at the central staircase. 3 in the morning. That means we have 3 hours left. Then we need to move. Now. 7, Clover, Junpei. I know how you feel, but you understand that, right now, it's more important we trust one another, don't you? Junpei couldn't bring himself to respond. He swallowed the words he wanted to say and sighed. 7 and Clover remained similarly silent. Their eyes were looking at something somewhere else, very far away. We must go. We have very little time left. Ace's words put their feet to moving. They all knew where they were going. Their next destination was Mercury. It sat, bolted to the wall near the stairs that led to the casino and the kitchen, between the 2 elevators. The Mercury card reader. Junpei stood in front of it with the Mercury keycard. 7 had given him the card. I found it when we were checking out the shower room. At least, that's what he said. Junpei slid the card through the reader. The light on the reader turned green and made a tiny electronic noise. Now, they were ready. Junpei and Jun had been chosen as the investigators, the reasoning being that they had been the E-deck before and no one else had. As before, Junpei sent the elevator ahead to make sure the floor they were heading to wasn't flooded. As before, the elevator returned dry as when it had left. Once it had been checked for water, Junpei and Jun stepped onto the elevator. Back down we go, huh? There were only 2 floor buttons they could push, the C and bottom buttons. The rest were destroyed or did nothing when pushed. Junpei hit the bottom button. The door closed. Slowly, they began to move downward. Sometime later, Junpei and Jun stepped off the elevator and onto the bottom deck. They stepped off and saw that the hallway to their right ended somewhere between 20 and 25 feet from them. The hallway in front of them was a dead end, but not a regular dead end. This is a numbered door. This is the 8th one we found. There were 2 numbered doors on B deck near the central staircase. There were doors 4 and 5. There are 3 more numbered doors in the large hospital room, doors 3, 7, and 8. Junpei and Jun had found another door on E deck, and Lotus and Santa had found a 7th on A deck. There was a 6 on the door on the E deck, and 1 on the door on A deck. 4, 5, 3, 7, 8, 6, 1. And now, door 2 stood in front of Junpei. There was only one thing it meant. Do you think the next door we find? Yeah, I think so. The next one's gonna be door 9. Despite himself, Junpei felt excited. There was something about that excitement that frightened him as well. He did his best to put it from his mind, and headed back to C deck with Jun. Alright, let's open these up. The pieces of paper they'd folded lay up on the ground next to Junpei's legs. There were 7 of them all told. They were written on paper and pulled from Junpei's notebook. Each one bore a code name and a door. Why had they decided to vote that way? They decided it wasn't fair to simply ask everyone at once. That would allow people to force others to go through certain doors. Well, that wasn't the only reason. Junpei had proposed the voting system, and he had a plan. It wasn't a plan he wanted anyone catching wind of, however, so he did his best to act calm as he began to read the pieces of paper. The first one read, Ace requests door 1. Yes, I do. Would you like me to explain why? No, we don't have the time for that. Sorry. Let's keep going. He opened the second one. Next is Santa. He wants door 6. Yeah, that's what I wrote. Junpei continued with the 3rd, 4th, and 5th pieces of paper. Clover wants 1, Lotus wants 2, and 7 also wants 2. Huh? Wait a minute. There's no way I'm going anywhere with the Elephant Man. No. There'd be no point to the voting if we let people change their choices because of stuff like that. But Just give it up, Lotus. It's not like I want to hang out with some exhibitionist grandma. I'm not an exhibitionist. I'm wearing clothes. Barely. So? Last I checked, that's not a crime. Maybe, but what about common decency? Nobody wants to have to look at a chick who looks like a half-naked raisin. Urgh! I'm gonna kill you. Okay. Lotus's hair flared out like the mane of an angry lion, and she roared with a voice that shook the walls. With some difficulty, Ace managed to restrain her. Junpei, read the rest. Right. Junpei tore his eyes away and looked down at the 6th piece of paper. He opened it. June wants door 6. Yes. I don't really have a reason, I just felt like it. All of the papers, save Junpei's, have been read. He did some quick calculations in his head. People requested door 1, Ace and Clover. This was a door on A deck near the central staircase. People requested door 2, 7 and Lotus. This was the door on the bottom deck and could be reached by taking the elevator to the bottom of the ship. People requested door 6, Santa and June. This was the door on E deck and could be reached by taking the elevator near the central staircase down. It took him less than a second to run the numbers. He opened the 7th piece of paper and spoke. Okay, the last one is mine. I want to go through... Can we go through all of them? Is that what it is? I don't know where I should go. Because I feel like I should stick with 7 because I've been with him for so long. Maybe we can learn more about him. But at the same time, I don't want to leave June by herself all the time either. Sorry, I was trying to see if there's like a log. Because I think 7 and Lotus wanted 2. I think I'm gonna go through 2 for now. I'm gonna go through 2 and we'll learn more about 7. My choice is door 2. Santa was unconvinced. Hey, wait a minute there. You cheating? Cheating? I'm asking you if you changed your number after you heard what doors we wanted. How could I do that? I wrote it down on the paper earlier. Let me see that. Junpei shrugged and handed it to him. Santa examined it furiously. The others peered at it as well. As they did, Junpei quickly slipped a piece of paper he had been hiding into his pocket. Although he'd never know it now, Santa had been justified in his suspicions. Junpei had switched papers. He had prepared 3 pieces of paper for doors 1, 2, and 6, and put the paper with door 6 on it in the pot. He put a small mark on it so that he would know which one was his. He kept the 1 paper hidden in his left hand, the 2 paper hidden in his right. Then he just made sure he didn't reach the paper until the end. Very nice. The rest was easy. If he wanted to go into door 1, he'd use his left hand, and his right hand if he wanted door 2. Of course, if he wanted door 6, that would be simple. All he needed to do was switch nothing, and say 6 had been what he wanted all along. Well, what does it say? He fought the urge to smirk. He got lucky. Santa snorted and tossed the paper aside, frustrated. Alright, so we know it's going through door 2. It'll be me, Lotus, and Junpei. Only problem is the other 2 teams. June and I want door 6. Clover and I chose door 1. That's not good. We can't open either of those doors with only 2 people. Everyone was silent. Then suddenly, Clover spoke, her face blank and cold. Why don't Santa and June go through door 1 with Ace? They looked at one another. Finally, Ace spoke. Then what will you do, Clover? I'll be waiting at the stairs. You guys are coming back here, right? That's what 7 was saying, wasn't it? That had been what 7 said. Till we find that 9 door, 0 ain't gonna split us up. We might get separated for a little while, but we'll see each other again. Otherwise, we can't open door 9. That's how the notary game works. I'm sorry, but I just want to be by myself for a while. You understand, right? There was no emotion on her face, but it was drawn and pale, and her eyes were red. No one had the heart to contradict her. The room grew very quiet. Silence drifted down over everything like a blanket of fresh snow. It was Santa who finally spoke. Alright, I'm gonna go through door 1. That alright with you, June? June said nothing. She simply nodded. And just like that, their paths were set. It meant that Junpei would be away from June for a time, but it had been his choice, and he would have to make his peace with it. Seven had said that they'd all see one another again, and Junpei believed him. Ace, Santa, and June headed toward the central staircase and the number 1 door. Clover followed them. After seeing them off, Junpei, Seven, and Lotus stepped into the elevator behind them and descended to the bottom deck. We're gonna have to, go with everybody eventually, so it's okay. I just wanted to see the rest of Seven's story, because, we've been with him for this amount of time, and Snake is gone, so he's really the only one I've been with from the entire beginning of this playthrough. They stepped off the elevator and headed for door 2. One by one, they put their palms onto the recognition device, and 3 asterisks blinked to life on its screen. Oh, here we go. What are we gonna have to deal with now? I don't remember what were in these doors. The door opened, and they leapt inside. Fortunately, it took them only moments to find the dead. It had been placed just inside the room, right next to the numbered door. They gathered around it and quickly scanned each of their bracelets. Actually, you know what? I do remember this now. Now that I see the hallway, I do remember it. And I feel like it was kind of a doozy. It stopped. Yeah, it stopped. Junpei could feel his heart pounding against the side of his ribs. Seven and Lotus were breathing hard and fast. It was the 3rd time they'd been through the process, but they had yet to grow accustomed to it. Not that Junpei wanted to. He planned to finish the game before he had a chance to let imminent death become commonplace. Junpei looked around again. It was a short hallway with 5 doors along the walls. There were 3 doors along the left wall, and a single one on the right. At the end of the hallway, the 5th door was covered by a thick metal plate. Junpei didn't think they'd be able to open it. After taking a look around the room himself, Seven spoke. Alright, let's get started. I think we'd probably better split up. You two okay with that? Yes, no problem. Sure thing. Seven nodded to them and stepped into the room closest to him. Lotus looked at the doors for a moment, then headed for the one in the center. At last, Junpei was left alone. Well, I guess I better get started too. He looked intently at the remaining 3 doors. Oh god, we need to get out of here. Of course. Seek a way out. Can we go in here? Or no? Oh god, this place. Nope, locked. Huh? What the hell? It's not opening. There's something up with this drawer. I don't trust it. Yeah. Chair's pretty old. If Seven sat on it, it'd probably break. Huh? You say something? Nothing at all. Of course we didn't. The bed? There's a dirty blanket on the bed. Man, this is a mess. It's not even the bed anymore. Can't say I'd want to sleep there. Nothing? I don't remember exactly what we were doing. Toilet paper tube, huh? I seriously doubt I'm gonna need this for anything. Well, this part is thinner than the rest. In fact, it doesn't really look like it's part of the rest of this thing. The rod feels loose. Maybe I should give it a couple turns. Here we go. Haha, screwdriver shaft. Yes, okay. Well, it looks like the rod comes out easily enough, but I don't think the rest of that is going anywhere. Okay. Good, good, good. Hey, this handle's pretty loose. Loose? You think it'll come off if you pull on it? It fell off. Oh, look at this. That handle doesn't really fit on the string. Maybe it wasn't meant to be attached to it. Combine. So if I just click this metal rod into the handle. Ha ha! Oh! Oh god, I don't remember any of this anymore. Okay, so it's like a sun. Okay, so this is like very weird. I don't know what all this... It looks like a compass, so... It's gonna make like a rough sketch. Okay. Can I look at it? Symbol on the toilet lid, huh? Seems a little fishy to me. It's a sun symbol, but it doesn't look like the ones on the doors. Alright, I think we're good here, so... Sink. What the hell is this supposed to be? Like a drawing of a whirlpool or something? Well, if I had to guess, I'd say it's trying to look like water. Something in there. There's a little tile in the drain. Doesn't look like we're gonna be able to pull it out of there. Okay. Might have to use our heads on this one. Alright, let's figure this thing out. I don't think it was this. Oh, looks like the water doesn't work. Doesn't matter how much 7 turns that thing, no water's coming out. Has the water been shut off from somewhere else? Alright, so yeah, I don't remember everything, but it's slowly coming back to me. It's really weird how that happens, isn't it? Somebody made sure this drawer wouldn't open. The screws are right there. Yep. Sweet, got the screws off. Now we can open the drawer. There's nothing in here. Well, maybe the drawer is what we need. The drawer, huh? Alright, let's yank this thing out. Don't remember... There's a bump on the back. I wonder what it's for. Maybe there's a hole somewhere and the bumps line up, and it'll trigger a hidden switch or something. Hey, we've seen weirder stuff. Doesn't seem that far-fetched. I agree. Okay, so let's get out of this room. We'll go see Lotus. Anything here? Okay, so this is the moon. So 7 and Lotus had the moon one. A moon? What a filthy, disgusting moon. Yeah, it's pretty filthy, but it's a precious hint. Let's remember it, alright? Handle. It's just hanging from the wall. Well, if we're pulling the string, then it must be a toilet that flushes. Paper seems to be pretty old. Ew. How the hell can you touch that? It's horrible. Well, it's not like I've really got a choice, do I? It's like I want to. Okay, so here. Okay, so this one's got this stream. Oh, we need a knob on the faucet. There's no way we can get the water out of it like this. If we can find a knob or something that'll work as one, we should be able to get the water to come out of this thing. Alright, so then the water is gonna go through the other faucet and push that tile up. A towel, okay? That bed looks cold. Pretty sure you'd freeze to death in the winter. No kidding. If I tried to sleep here, my skin would dry out in no time. Well, it's not like you're that young anymore. It shouldn't really matter. My, Junpei. Aren't you lucky? It seems you'll die before you have a chance to grow old and hideous. I'm sorry. You're right. Dry skin is a woman's worst enemy. They say she's old, but she doesn't look old. Like, even when 7 was saying that, I was like, really? There's nothing in the drawer. Yeah, something's not right, though. That handle on that drawer doesn't really fit, you know? It just looks messy. Why don't you take it out? I need this. If I use the screwdriver and the screw in the center of the handle, maybe I can get a faucet knob. Yes. Okay, cool. So now we can put it on here. And no, I'm not playing this for the second time this time. Actually, this is my first playthrough. Sweet. The handle that I got off that drawer fits into the faucet perfectly. Now I can turn the water on. Sweet. Junpei, what are you doing? It's pretty obvious, isn't it? You're running the water. I can see that. I'm asking you why you're letting it run like that. Think about it, Lotus. This faucet didn't have a knob when we found it, right? What do you mean? Just watch. Anytime now. Hey, the water's filling up. Doesn't that just mean the pipes are clogged? Whoops, let's turn it off for now. Whoops! So, did anything change? The water stopped flowing. Thank you, Mr. Obvious. Junpei, I'm leaving this one to you, alright? Oh, you don't have to leave anything to me. It's already solved in my big brain head. This room, and then the sink. Ha ha ha! Okay, what are you? I don't remember what you do with these. Junpei put the wet tile into his pocket. He was about to turn away when there was a noise behind him. He spun around to see Seven kneeling on the floor. His face was rigid and pale. Droplets of sweat covered his forehead. Hey, what's going on? You okay, man? He was concerned. He had never seen Seven like this before. Slowly, the other man lifted himself to his feet on shaky legs. Yeah, I'm fine. I just got a little dizzy, that's all. His face was pale, and his breathing was heavy. Sweat was pouring off his face and staining his shirt. He was many things, but fine was not one of them. Are you sure? You don't look so good. Seven didn't answer. Half of his face was twisted, as if distorted by extreme pain, and his eyes were glazed. Finally, he spoke. What am I doing here? His words made no sense. What are you talking about? We opened the number 2 door and walked in here. Don't tell me you forgot. No, that's not what I mean. He shook his head several times, as if trying to clear something from it. It ain't much, but I think some of my memories came back. I think I've been here before. Huh? I said I've been in this room before. You were here? When? Why? Aoi, Light, Nona. Suddenly, Seven was mumbling to himself. There were words Junpei didn't understand. Seven's hoarse voice trailed off, and Junpei couldn't make out what he'd said. What the hell was that? Seven's brow furrowed furiously, and he ground his teeth back and forth. It's right there. I feel like I'm this close to remembering everything, but I just can't. Seven stopped, frustrated. He pulled his hat off and ran a hand through his hair. Then suddenly, he looked up, his eyes wide. That's right! An experiment! There was some kind of experiment going on in this ship. An experiment? What sort of experiment? They were trying to control people. Or something like that. Junpei didn't know what to make of Seven's story. Instead, he simply stared as Seven continued. Ao, Light, and Nona. Those were their names. Well, some of them. The kids that were there. In the experiment, I mean. I think there were 4 or 5 more, but I don't remember all their names. Yeah, that's right. That's why I'm here. Seven began to mumble to himself and wander aimlessly about the room. He looked confused. So far as Junpei could tell, the man was simply rambling. There were odd twitches and movements. Experiment. Cradle Pharmaceutical. Those kidnapped kids. Was I working that case? Seven continued to mumble to himself about things that meant nothing to Junpei. Junpei didn't have any answers for him, of course. He couldn't understand what was happening to Seven. All he could do was wait. After a few minutes, Seven finally stopped. He crouched down and looked under the bed. His face registered mild surprise, and he began to mumble to himself again. The hole's gone? No, maybe it was a different room. There's gotta be a ton of rooms on this boat that look just like this one. At last, Junpei could contain himself no longer. Hey, what exactly do you remember? Well, maybe you can stop talking like a crazy person and tell me what's going on here. Seven stood up slowly. Well, it's not like I really remember everything. I've only got bits and pieces, and they're scattered and don't make much sense. I don't care. Tell me the bits and pieces then. Junpei could feel it. Whatever Seven had remembered, it was important. Very important. Seven drew a large, muscled hand down across his face. As he wiped the sweat from his brow, he spoke. From what I can remember, I think I was a cop. A cop? Yeah. I was looking for that group of kids that got kidnapped 9 years ago. You remember that, right? It was all over the news. Yeah. I was still in school. I don't remember all the details, but I do remember some of it. I think it was a bunch of kids right around my age. They all just disappeared. Nobody knew why. It was all over the TV and the newspapers, every day. So you're saying you were investigating it? Yeah, that's what it looks like. I guess I found something. There was this medical company called Cradle Pharmaceutical that had something to do with those kids. After I figured that out, I managed to get some information out of somebody who worked for them. They told me a ship would be leaving at night, with all the kids on it. They were going to be taken to some kind of big passenger ship somewhere out in the ocean. And so, Seven headed to the wharf. He kept to the shadows, and before long, found a suspicious ship that he'd been looking for. There were a number of human shapes moving near the ship. There were men in black suits. Many of them were carrying large bags onto the ship. The bags. There was something about the way that they moved as they were carried. There could be no mistake. There were human beings in those bags. He had moved before he even realized what he was going to do. Out of the shadows he came, his gun already in his hand. He heard the words, "Don't move," but they weren't his. He felt metal touch the back of his head. "Drop your gun," came the cold voice from behind him. With the words, he felt the cold metal thing behind him press against his skull. Slowly, Seven crouched down and laid his gun on the ground. Then suddenly, he felt a sharp pain in his neck. A needle. Was it some sort of drug? As he was thinking about that, Seven felt his face hit the cold concrete beneath him. He could feel the chill of it seeping into him. Ugh, my head hurts. Seven woke to find himself lying on a hard floor. He twisted his neck to peer around the room. Where am I? There was a small, shabby bed and a dirty sink. A toilet with no stall or privacy of any sort. As a cop, it was a place Seven had seen all too often. I'm in a cell, huh? Opposite the toilet was a door set into the wall. Seven struggled to his feet and hobbled toward it. He gave the door a good shove, then another. Then he tried pulling it. It didn't open. Well, that was about what he'd expected. It wasn't likely that someone would put him in a cell only to leave it unlocked. He threw himself against the door a few times too, but to no avail. I knew it. Seven grumbled to himself as he moved back toward the bed. He sat down. He sat there for a very long time. Just how long, he wasn't sure. At last, he began to nod off, and had nearly fallen asleep when he was roused by a distant voice. There's... over... It's 9. The voice was far away. Very far away. Seven couldn't understand what it was saying. Nonetheless, it was a voice, and a high one, most likely a child. His eyes shot open. K-ing. As he listened, he could pick out several different, distinct voices. There were at least 5 or 6, possibly more. Where were the voices coming from? He looked around the room frantically. Perhaps the door? No, that wasn't it. What? Go out? Was it coming from the left? Was it coming from under the bed? He grabbed the bed and flipped it up with ease. Good lord, dude! A little bit of tact, you know? That would help. There it was. There was a hole for ventilation in the wall where the bed had been, covered with a metal grate. Seven lay down on the stomach and peered through the grate. He couldn't see anything. It was too dark. Now that he'd found it, however, there could be no doubt. This was the source of the voices. For a moment, he was confused. Why were there children nearby? Then he remembered what the man from the Cradle Pharmaceutical had told him. How a ship would take the kidnapped children from the wharf to a waiting passenger liner out in the ocean. Was Seven on that passenger liner? It didn't matter. What mattered was that he had to find a way to the children. Seven looked at the metal grate. Could he fit through that hole? He stuck his fingers through the grate and grabbed hold of it. Huh? Good Lord, 7, you are a mountain of a man. Yeah, how'd you like that? The dark square sat open for him. 7 wiped the sweat from his forehead and crawled inside. You actually fit? If 7 can fit, then we're all good. Junpei waited for 7 to resume his story. The longer he waited, however, the clearer it became that 7 had no intention of doing so. He had gone silent and simply stared off into the air, his eyes blank. Hey, what happened after that? He'd waited long enough, but 7 shook his head. I don't remember what happens after that. I think I found some kind of door out of the duct. And I think I found some kids too. Oh man. Why can't I remember what happened next? Oh man. What happened to the kids, 7? Did you save them? I don't know. I don't know if it was me. I've got this feeling. I think one of the kids died. A girl, I think. Huh? Deep in his heart, Junpei felt something very cold. 7's head dropped, and Junpei saw a look of sadness, the likes of which he had never seen on the man before. The large man's eyes blinked rapidly, as if he were fighting back tears, and he swallowed hard. His sigh was like the melancholy setting of an old abandoned building. He shook his head and spoke. Anyway, just please don't ask me anymore, okay? I really don't remember anything else. After that, Junpei could hardly try to force any answers out of the other man. There was nothing more he could do. Instead, Junpei turned his mind to trying to make sense of what 7 had told him. The children who had been kidnapped 9 years before. Apparently, a company called Cradle Pharmaceutical had been behind the kidnappings, and taken the children to a ship they were on now. They had been brought to the ship for an experiment. Something to do with controlling human beings, 7 had said. The 16 children who were kidnapped had been test subjects for the experiment. 7 had said 3 of their names were Aoi, Light, and Nona. That was the new information. He had also learned that 7 was, or had been, a police officer. Still, there was little he could do with this new information. He had learned nothing about the nonary game or Zero. He had no idea why they had been brought to the ship that had been the site of those experiments 9 years before. Junpei couldn't forget what 7 had said the purpose of the experiment had been. To control human beings. Could such an absurd experiment really have been conducted? Before long, Junpei realized he had spent quite some time in deep thought. No time for that, he chided himself. He had work to do. Junpei shook his head quickly to clear it and returned to his investigations, thoughts swirling in his mind. Alrighty then, so now we're getting a little bit more information in regards to what's going on with this place. I can just barely see a mirror from the light coming through the ceiling. Sure would be nice if that mirror was a little lower down. Looks like it's the same height as the mirror on the right. I wonder if that means anything. No idea. In the other room, the river and the spring went together to solve the puzzle. Does that mean there might be a similar puzzle with this mirror? Well, there's nothing else here apart from the mirror. Maybe I just need to pair something with this mirror. I don't remember. It's a blanket, not a really great one, but still. Light's barely enough to see by. Okay, so I think we need to go out of here. Let's go ahead and go out of here. Into this room? Emergence? The tiles we found on the tiles here are the same size. When I touched the tiles on the door, I felt something weird. Huh? I can move these tiles. Then that means maybe if you swap the tiles we got with the tiles on the wall, something will happen. I suppose now we just need to figure out what the strange design is on these tiles. At any rate, we should look for all the tiles the same size. You're right. Let's meet back here after we've done a thorough search. Okay. There's a door in the back. I wonder where it goes. I thought of that and tried a couple things, but yeah, same result. Guess 7 wasn't about to do anything. Ah, well. So is there a tile in each room? This bed looked even sadder without the pillow. So, it's still a terrible bed. I'd never sleep on a bed like that. Alright, whatever, lady. Do I have anything that I can use here? 14 equals E. What? It says 14 equals E in red. I think I saw 14 in red somewhere else. Was not something I'm carrying around with me. I think it's this. There's a bunch of weird lines on this thing, yeah? I don't get this. Maybe Seven O Lotus can help me out. It says 14, it says 14 equals E? Toilet paper. It's still light enough for me to know what it is, even in the dark. There's nothing out of the ordinary about it. Okay. I can just barely make out the string for the toilet, but I can't get a hold of it. Kinda pisses me off that I can see it, but I can't touch it. Let's see, let's turn around. What about over here? Arrgh! No matter how hard I pull on this thing, it won't budge. Guess I won't be opening it anytime soon. Doesn't look like it's got a keyhole and doesn't seem to be anything stopping it. How the hell am I supposed to open it? I don't remember. The desk is old and rusty. Oh god. Wait a second, wait a second, wait a second. Is it this one? Sound like something falling. What was that? I heard it too. Let's open the drawer. Oh, there's a tile in it now. 14. What is this tile for? Red, blue, gray. Several lines in each color. What does it mean? Your guess is as good as mine. So now we have 2 tiles. There's nothing in the drawer. Can I put the other one back? Here? I already took the drawer out of this desk. Okay, never mind then. Do we have enough tiles now? Looks like we should use the tiles here, but there are still rooms that haven't been checked yet. I'll come back here once I've done that. Okay, never mind then. So I'm guessing this room here, I need to do something with it. But what? The mirror's hanging at the same... Yeah, I know. Oh, the towel? There's a mirror in the back of the room hung opposite this one. The only difference between them is whether or not they're reflecting any light. It's a sink, but there's no light shining on it. It's hard to be sure because it's so dark here, but I don't think there's anything going on with the sink. The faucet's too hard to turn. Mirror's hanging at the same height, I know. The drawer? No. I went back without even checking it. Combine. Nope. Oh! I took the handle off. Do you really think we need this anymore? Oh wait, there's something on the back. It's a mirror. Okay, so how can I use this? Oh yeah, we could probably use this mirror to reflect the light. Now I just gotta figure out where to reflect the light. Maybe if I go somewhere that's a little easier to shine the light on. You see a partition over there, it seems pretty pointless to bother examining it. So if I shine this light on the mirror in the back, there we go. I get it. If I shine the light on the mirror, a symbol appears. Okay, the left one has a sun and the right one's got a moon symbol. I'm gonna remember this. What's the point of that? When I shine the light on the mirror in the back, 4-7, okay? I don't know exactly what I'm doing here. If I shine the light on this mirror, then I get to see some numbers. I'm gonna see a 4 on the left and a 7 on the right. 4 and 7. I don't remember. 4 and 7. Let's sell this towel too. The drawing on the mirror looks just like the one on the design on the towel. And the design on the towel was a river and the spring, right? The picture on this mirror is a spring and it's talking about water in the sink. Looks like the water bubbled up through the drain and pushed the tile out. I know that, but why do I have this towel? What's the towel for? The drawing on the mirror is just part of that image on the towel. The towel is a river and the spring, is it? This mirror has a river on it. If it's indicating the sink, then I think I already solved that one. The sink is totally filled with water. I don't know what I can really do. Because I already have the tile. I feel like it's supposed to be a hint for the tile. Okay. So. What am I missing? It looks like I'm missing a tile. The only place I can really like look is in this room. The light's barely enough to see by. I feel like I'm gonna see a ghost here. Can I shine the light from here? No. It's a blanket, not really a great one, but still. Okay. Drawer that doesn't open. I wonder if that's part of the puzzle. This desk is old and rusty. I don't know what you want me to do with this. Not sure. No, I didn't want to leave. I wanted to use the light. I don't think it really reflects anything, though. Got the sun and the moon. What does that mean? 4 and 7. Oh, this game's gonna drive me crazy. Looks like a toilet. Pretty old school toilet. Guess that makes sense, though. Ship seems pretty old, too. The only thing you can manipulate in this room is that string. Chances are they made this puzzle so someone wouldn't trigger it by accident. Okay, so we flushed the toilet. I need to flush the moon one next. So this is what the moon symbol is pointing to, huh? They probably made it so someone wouldn't trigger it by accident. If that's the case. Okay, so there's the sun and the moon. So now what? Looks like a dirty toilet, but it's too dark to tell. 14 equals E. Alright, it took a couple tries, but now I've got you, string. Yes! Now I can pull on it. Huh? Doesn't matter how many times I pull it, there's no flush. Kinda feel like an idiot. I wasted a bunch of time because I was determined to flush a toilet. Didn't trigger it. Oh god! I wonder what I was supposed to do. I really don't remember. There's nothing special about this toilet paper. I don't really think I need to bother shining any light on it. Okay, so I've got the sun and then the moon, and then 14 equals E and a 4-7. I remember this puzzle being a little tough. I guess I just keep pulling on this thing then. Oh, hang on. The sun and the moon, 4 and 7. Is that how many times we're supposed to flush the toilet? I feel like that was the answer. Alright, second pull. Okay, 2, 3, 4. Did you just hear something? I did, but it doesn't look like anything's happened here. Huh, wonder what that sound was. I'm not sure. But we're halfway there. We're halfway to the answer because now we have to pull this one 7 times. Oh, I forgot this puzzle. 2, 3, 4. This is fun. I love flushing toilets. 5, 6. One more. Haha! There's that sound again. It happens whenever I pull that string a couple of times. Junpei, did you hear something from the other room? The other room? You mean the dark room? Yes. Oh, please tell me to open that drawer. I think I'm only missing 1 tile. Turn around. Try this. Oh, thank God. Well, this drawer opens easily enough. And there's 2 tiles in here. Awesome. Sweet. Now we have all the tiles that we need. Oh, this puzzle. I forgot about you. Okay. Well, it looks like we've investigated all the rooms. The only mystery left is that door. Alright, let's crack the mystery then. We've got 4 tiles. Now there are a bunch of tiles that are the same size up on the wall there. So if we replace 4 of the tiles on the wall with the ones we got, we should open the door. Well, there's only one way to find out. 14 equals E, right? Know what they're saying? Hey, did you just hear something unlock? Does that mean we got it right? Yes, it looks like we did. The 14 hidden on the tile. If you convert that to a hexadecimal, it's an E. Basically, the E's in emergence are the 14s from the tiles. So if we replace that, it gives up the answer. Do you really care why it worked? Let's just get out of here. I agree. The door in the back. Oh. We need to go this way. Yes, let's go. We did it! Oh my God, I forgot how crazy that puzzle is. The further you go, the harder they get. They passed through the open door and headed to the next room. Junpei jogged down the short staircases and looked around. Oh. What the hell is this place? The words had sprung unbidden to his lips, but it was clear why. Junpei shivered. Lotus and Seven reached the bottom of the stairs and stopped short, terrified. This room is really creepy. I think we ought to get the hell out of here. Now. He jogged up the stairs on the opposite side of the room and shook the door on the wall next to the catwalk. We gotta escape here too. It didn't open, and he muttered to himself. Figures. It's locked, isn't it? Yup. Don't know why I thought it'd be any different. Junpei looked around the room again. In the center of it was a chair. The back of it was covered with electrodes connected to a nest of wires. Beneath it was a strange glass panel. Junpei wasn't sure what it was for, but it made him uncomfortable. Whatever might have been beyond the glass, Junpei couldn't tell. It was too dark. Junpei turned to look at the right side of the room. There was a table covered with a piece of cloth. Parts of the cloth were stained with something that looked suspiciously like blood. On top of the table were a number of metal instruments. Junpei didn't know what they were for, and had a feeling he didn't want to find out. His mind began to imagine what could have taken place in that dark, cold room. The things he imagined were not pleasant. Junpei shook his head in an attempt to clear it, and tried to focus on something else. Anyway, we don't want to stay here any longer than we got to. Let's figure out the puzzle and get the hell out of here. Come on! Yep, we gotta escape this place. Oh God. Well, you know what? I think I'm actually gonna leave this episode right here because that's a good place to stop it. We haven't solved anything here yet, so we'll be able to stop it whenever, and we will continue on and make our way out of this room and probably have some more story segments. So, it may be a little bit of a short episode, but it's a really good place to stop it, so I will leave it here for next time. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know if you enjoyed. I'll see you guys on the next MAMJ. Let's go. Hey, Clover, can you hear me? Perhaps it was something he'd said, or perhaps it was something else. Suddenly, her mouth opened and she whispered in a dry, dead voice. My brother might be dead. Huh? That's why we couldn't find him. If he's dead, I'm gonna be next. Suddenly, the operating room felt very, very cold. What are you talking about? What's wrong with you? He gave her a small shake, but she still didn't.